Hello, everybody. I'm Candid Frank, Stanisci of Candid Frank Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on Candid Frank Live, joining me as usual, the one, the only, Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing?
Doing great, Frank. How are you doing?
Not bad. Still trying to get over my head, trying to get my head through the front door because we met some of the viewers that watch our show. So my ego is extremely large. I've had to really try to get my head to get a little smaller because of that swelled head,
Well, it's always nice when people enjoy your work.
Who cares? I don't even care if they enjoy it as long as they watch
it. Yeah. There's that.
There's always that. Like I said, ego. It's all about ego. All right, let's start with the Canadian Football League. Argos, they use a 27-point third quarter. Great game, right, Aaron? Against the Ottawa Red Blacks.
That was an absolutely fantastic game. It started out slowly enough. I think the Argos had 1 point in the first quarter, but it got better after that.
9-8 at the end of the first half.
Yeah, no, I was thinking to myself, next field goal wins.
Yeah, no kidding. Next goal wins. It was like that. There have been some hockey games with higher scoring. It was a great game, though. The Argos did really well. Unfortunately, being what day it was and the pandemic, it's having some effect. The Argos had their worst group of fans watching their game, 6,700. Not a lot, not good. Hopefully things will change. We've got some Thanksgiving weekend games, friends, rivals, Caleros and Harris. They're set to play against each other this Thanksgiving Day weekend.
It's looking to be an interesting clash the way that's shaping up when the Bombers are playing the Elk. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, and then Lawler apologized, right?
Yeah, he apologized for his mistake. He clearly admits that it was a selfish decision that led to him getting busted. So hopefully he'll learn from this going forward. It was a selfish decision. He said a bad decision on my part. I knew better than to step into a car. Quite frankly, I think he's lucky he didn't kill somebody. But that's
the thank goodness part, right?
Yeah. Thank goodness he didn't.
Yeah. So the Thanksgiving Day weekend left is Calgary at Saskatchewan to go along with that Edmonton Winnipeg game. And then the Thanksgiving Day games feature the Ottawa Red Blacks and the Montreal Alouettes, and of course the Toronto Argonauts and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. In the NHL, the Avs head coach Bednar sidelined after positive COVID-19 test.
Yeah, this was a bit of a shocker. I mean, it's not like they haven't had situations like that before, but he did test positive and is going to be missing the next two preseason games against the Dallas Stars. Ray Bennett and Nolan Pratt are going to be stepping up. They played Dallas last night and they host the Stars on Saturday. They're opening their regular season this coming Wednesday against Chicago. So they are also going to be without backup Pavel Francouz for about 3 to 4 weeks due to a lower body injury.
Well, they should do okay. I mean, Montreal made it to the Stanley Cup final, losing a coach in midseason and then their coach in the playoffs. So there's no excuse. Things should be okay. William Nylander to be vaxxed in time for the season. Good for him. Habs star goaltender Carey Price enters NHLPA assistance program. Yikes.
Well, this could be for a variety of different things. The NHL
we can only guess.
Exactly. The NHL's assistance program is designed to help players with their mental health, with physical health, with addiction issues, all that sort of stuff. This has been coming for a while, though. I mean, he's 34. He's been injured frequently. It's been a toll on him not being able to see his family as frequently as he would like. But I'm glad that he is finally getting the help that he needs.
And good that the company has the opportunity for him to go and take care of it. A lot of people are, sending their love towards him, including the GM, who was very emotional about it. Also, what's being said is it takes bravery to admit to something like that. I'm beginning to realize I was way ahead of my time. Pretty
Well,
weird.
no, I'll speak honestly here, Frank. I'm glad that you got the help that you did.
Well, we're talking 8 years ago,
Yeah.
when saying and admitting stuff like that wasn't exactly kosher. The QMJHL suspends two 19-year-old players after sexual assault charges. Oh, story just continues.
Oh, it never seems to get better. Massimo Siciliano and Nicholas Daig both appeared in court in Quebec City on Tuesday, and the QMJHL made its decision on Wednesday to suspend them indefinitely for the actions. They filmed it and disseminated pictures, which it took place in June 6th after they won the QMJHL title. Doesn't excuse any of their actions. Obviously, the organization is going to condemn their behavior, and the Victoriaville Tigre fully support the decisions of the QMJHL in this, and good on them for doing that.
Get smart, guys. Minor hockey, Ontario woman handed 4 years for defrauding youth hockey organization of millions.
Yeah, so this is a case that goes back. She was originally charged in June 2019, but this is stuff that goes back years. She defrauded them out of approximately $2.4 million. New York Regional Police were following a report for missing funds that was filed by the league in November 2018. At that time, Gordson was the OMHA's director of finance. So plenty of opportunities for the funds to go missing, and she's been sentenced to 48 months.
She was directing money in the wrong place. That's what's happening there. I wanted to mention this. We mentioned already. I finally watched the Buffalo Bills game. My God, 40-0. Canadian basketball star Kia Nurse suffers torn ACL in right knee. She's out for the rest of the WNBA playoffs.
Yeah, and her team is going on to play Game 5 tonight. It'll be the series-defining game before they head on to the next round. Hopefully, they'll be able to put it together without her, and hopefully, they'll be able to bring back a title for her. It'd be nice to see that.
Wow, I watched the soccer game last night. Did you watch it? Did you watch Canada tie Mexico in Mexico for the first time?
Yes, team didn't lose.
Fantastic. Rosario's goal was amazing.
I was losing my mind.
And you know what caused me a lot of grief? And I'm really ticked. I don't know. That referee, I don't know. The game ended. Now, if you watch the game, if you really did watch the game, if you watched the whole game, the first half, the first 3/4 of the game, he kept his whistle in his pocket. There was a kick. Usually you get suspended when you kick at a player, right? Didn't happen to the Mexican player. It was reversed. The beginning of the game, no red cards, no yellow cards. Then by the end of the game was 4 yellow cards to Canada to Mexico's 1. Am I being a homer, or did that not reflect the way the teams played?
No, it wasn't indicative. The number of cards that were handed out was grossly disproportionate, including a lot of the flopping that went on right in front of the referee by Team Mexico's players. I like to think of myself as unbiased. I am a soccer fan. I am, however, not necessarily that much of a homer, but Canada deserved better than the officiating that they got.
Absolutely, they did. It was, you know what? That's stuff that's going to go in the bank. That's going to motivate Canada because, I can't imagine. I think possibly the reason they ended up with the 4 yellow cards is that they felt the standard was set earlier in the game, and then they started doing some stuff that they thought wasn't going to get blown, and it did. Like the grab, that got the yellow card, the grab of the shoulder. There was worse than that in the first half, and they caught nothing. I mean, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to say I'm a homer. I love Canada. I'm a proud Canadian, and I got to stand up for that Canadian team because they got jobbed. They could have won that game, Aaron. For the first time in 40 years, they could have won a game at Azteca Stadium, something that hasn't happened. In fact, they accomplished something. They didn't lose the first time a Canadian team, any team actually, if I remember correctly, every team that's played in Azteca has lost.
And the other interesting thing is they also got a point off Team USA. So I think that's actually the first time any team has ever gotten a point off of Mexico and off the United States in the Ocho.
So, in the same tournament.
Yep.
Basically, yes. Really good. And it couldn't have been a nicer guy to get the goal. I got to say that. The veteran got the goal. But, oh, God, Davies missed that chance. I'm telling you, he just didn't get there in time. He didn't get enough of his foot on it.
There were a couple that were so close, and it would have been absolutely fantastic. But, it'll come with time.
You know what? This is better in the long run. Because this, like I said, this is going to make them hungry. And good for them. Italy loses semifinal to Spain, so Spain moves on to the Nations League final between now France and Spain. The English Premier League approves Saudi buyout of Newcastle United. Aaron, what's up with that?
Well, so it's for those who follow the EPL, it's not really a surprise. Newcastle has had financial difficulties for a while, but the EPL finally approved the buyout for a Saudi owner. So a lot of fans aren't particularly happy with that. They're afraid that it's going to go the same route as Man City. Going to be lots of shiny new baubles and lots of trophy buying for the first little while before the eventual collapse is going to happen. But we'll see. I have a little bit of hope for that because the Saudi Arabian State Fund is actually signing a 350 million euro takeover deal. So that can do in the short term nothing but cash. Good. Yeah.
That's a lot of cash. Is Deontay Wilder's crushing power his only chance to defeat Tyson Fury, Aaron?
Well, I don't know if you saw the initial match last year, but Tyson Fury absolutely demolished Deontay Wilder. So, I mean, this is back in February 22nd, 2020. Yeah, early. So before COVID. The problem is if you listen to Deontay Wilder, he says, Tyson Fury's gloves were weighted. My ring costume was too heavy. It felt like jelly. The media isn't giving me a chance. It's everybody's fault but the fact that he didn't take Tyson Fury seriously enough.
If I wasn't so afraid of him, I'd make fun of him being a crybaby. Ontario students to get free menstrual products as part of a deal with Shoppers Drug Mart.
So this is a great thing for students in general. I know for a long time we mentioned equality and we've talked about the pink tax before, and that's the additional burden that's placed on women in society just based on the fact that they're women. The Ontario government has partnered with Shoppers Drug Mart for at least the next 3 years. They're going to be setting up approximately 1,200 different dispensers at different schools in and around Ontario for lower income students and disadvantaged students who can't necessarily afford period products to be able to get them so that they can fully participate in school activities while they're menstruating, which is important.
I have no idea about it. All I know is it sounds like it's helping, and I always like helping. So that's the idea. I don't really understand how it helps, but I think I can figure it out. Maybe in another few years. I need a little more maturity to figure that out. When you talk about that topic, women more and more are becoming central to society. These kinds of little things, these little baby steps, Aaron, they're important, like you're suggesting. We need to see more of that, and hopefully someday, it's like, like they say, you're blind to racism. When you if you don't see color, that's probably half the battle as far as fighting racism is concerned. If you don't see sex, is that the same?
See, I'm not 100% sold on that. I think you do still have to acknowledge the opposite sex and provide them with the tools that they need in order to compete on equal footing.
Okay.
So, having a student not participate in, let's say, a gym class because they are menstruating and it's an issue for them because they can't afford feminine hygiene products during that particular time is a disadvantage.
I agree. And I guess the way I can frame it is this, is that if people have special needs, right, we should consider their needs. And this goes beyond women, goes beyond men. It goes to everything in life, right? The basic, if you're a socialist, I'm not going to call you a socialist, but if you're a socialist, what you believe is society should help to equalize things, to make things equal, if I'm hearing you right.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I wasn't looking for an argument. Well,
No, all I'm saying is there should be a level playing field for everybody.
absolutely. And no,
So,
I agree with you.
yep.
Like I said, sometimes we forget that being disadvantaged because of what sex or what background you are is not fair. And that's the point you were trying to make. So if people think that, for the people, I'm trying to basically argue with the people who are saying don't do stuff like that. Well, leveling the playing field is always a good idea. September jobs gain gets labor market to pre-pandemic levels, but we're not yet at a full recovery, are we?
Unfortunately, no. Now, there were 157,000 jobs that were added in September, but I think people tend to forget that it's related, in part at least, to the September 20th federal election. Core aged women, those between age 25 and 54, their employment jumped. Employment for males during that time period, however, shrank. In addition, while it's great that there were 157,000 jobs, unfortunately, not all of them were full time. The vast majority of them were part. So the numbers are looking up, and the employment statistics, the employment rate is coming down, but it's tempered, I should say, with a little bit of caution concerning that.
Again, many women had to give up their jobs because, being a mother and being a child caregiver, being unable to find somebody to take care of their children. The pandemic really hit them really hard. But it also highlighted the fact that working women need to be able to find affordable babysitting, Aaron. And that's, that means that they're not taking jobs that they might otherwise take because they don't know what happens if their child gets sick, if they have multiple children, if one of them gets sick. Regardless, it's a challenge.
Exactly, and I think that's the realization that more and more companies came to, is that women play a large, as far as I'm concerned, women play a much larger role, and it's gender based, entirely gender based. It's you're the mother, therefore you have to stay home. It doesn't matter if you're the nurse and you make more money than the husband, you're staying home to look after the kid. And it's
That
not
changes. That's been changing too, but
slowly.
it has not changed to the extent where it's 50-50. It's the pendulum thing. It's got to swing all the way over. And the real issue there, if I can take it away from being, about sexes, it's about employers and it's about the government. And we've got to the South, our friends in the South, you've got Biden wanting to create affordable, daycare. And the reason, there in the U.S., you have women who are willing to take a job, but they're going to earn $15 an hour, and the cheapest babysitters they can get are $16 an hour. That doesn't seem to work out well financially, does it?
No, and this is why the liberals' proposed program of $10 a day daycare it's just so important.
Yeah, we as a society are not, cavemen or cave women, right? There was a time when there was no health care, right? We did that. We brought health care to Canada, and that health care wasn't an idea that everybody liked when it started, but now we take it for granted. Why do we take it for granted? Because people don't suffer as much if they have health care, and suffering is what we want to get rid of. And women who have to decide between working or taking care of the children is a mode of suffering. It may be passive aggressive, but it's still suffering. So, government should be in the business of limiting or mitigating suffering, right? That's
Definitely.
Everything we talk about here on this show, whether it's Aboriginal rights, whether it's women's rights, whether it's anything, voting rights, any rights at all, whatever makes our lives copacetic. I think we both agree we're not here to live people's lives, and the government shouldn't live our lives for us. They should just give us an opportunity to fend for ourselves and have the opportunity to, be satisfied in life because of our hard work. Not them work for us, but us be able to work for ourselves. And that's the whole point of daycare. That's the whole point of human rights. That's the whole point of helping Aboriginal folks who have been undermined for literally hundreds of years. So yeah, good for Canada. Here's the fun part. Welcome to post-pandemic elections. Canada confirms bloc win over Tories in Trois-Rivières.
There was some question. The Bloc actually only beat the Conservatives by 83 votes, and that was after a recount. So it was a razor-thin margin. The Tories went to court to request a recount because the Bloc had originally won at that point by 92 votes. So as it turns out, René Villemur, the Bloc candidate, won that riding with 17,136 votes. And the Conservative candidate, Yves Levesque, came second with 17,053 votes.
NDP leader Singh is not singing, he's humming. And what he's humming is NDP prepared to withhold votes in Parliament, including the Liberal budget.
I'm not sure exactly what his end game is here, but we've just come out of a pandemic. If they withhold votes and decide not to vote in a bloc with the Liberals, and it turns into a vote of non-confidence, then we're going right back to the polls again, and we're still in the pandemic. So I'm not 100% sure what this sort of thing is, or what sort of
strong arming
he's going to try to
getting their way. It's a typical political move. It's not one that Singh invented. It's one that he's doing that's been done before. To your point, I guess what you're asking is this the time to be like this? It's bad enough Trudeau called an election, but now, Jagmeet Singh is doing what some people don't want to hear about, and that is the possibility of another election, especially when people have been waiving the amount of money, $300 million for the election?
610.
600.
That's okay.
I liked it better when I said it.
Honestly, Frank, if at this point Singh manages to get a vote of no confidence and we go back to the polls again, what little gains the NDP has made will be completely washed away, because it will be his party's fault.
Yeah, and the Green Party will be happy about it, because then maybe they can make a good run
at the
next election, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're going to be honest, right? That's that. So, and that could be counterproductive for the NDP. So, nobody wants an election, but he's got, we'll see. It's a game of chicken, right? Politics sometimes gets into the game of chicken, and that's essentially what they're doing. Eastern Ontario mayor has to resign after buying dream home outside city. I feel bad for this guy, Aaron.
In a way, I do too. So as it turns out, Jason Baker has stepped down as the mayor of Brockville. He bought himself a dream home. Unfortunately, it was outside the city, which inadvertently disqualified him from holding office to which he'd been duly elected. So, yeah, I mean, he won the mayoralty in 2018 by only a handful of votes. But as it stands now, Brockville now has 90 days to fill the vacancy. Jane Fullerton will be serving as the city's acting mayor for the remainder of the month of October. But yeah, he got his dream home, but at the same time, it cost him his job. So,
yeah. Well, you know what I like about this story, Aaron? He's not complaining.
No, he fully acknowledges that he screwed up. So,
right? I mean, is it so hard to admit you can't be the mayor of a city?
I shouldn't think so, but you'd have to ask the Premier of Ontario about that.
Elections have consequences. He had to choose between his dream home and the position as mayor. Edmonton elections adds verification step after some voters received wrong school board ballots. What's up there?
So there was a bit of a kerfuffle after about 40 people were concerned because they received the wrong public school board ballots for advanced polling this week. So Aileen Giesbrecht, who's with the city clerk and returning officer, said voters received correct ballots after speaking up at polling stations, but in some cases they'd submitted incorrect ballots in the first place. So there have been potential connectivity issues, and staff believe that there were cases of election workers not refreshing their where to vote tool between voters, which led to the errors. So,
And those errors?
well, they got the wrong ballots. For instance, one individual who lives in Ward I got his ballot and didn't recognize any of the names on it. The problem was his address was in Ward G, not Ward I. So, of course, the candidates that were appearing on his particular ballot weren't valid.
So it wasn't in G, it was in I. So,
Exactly.
got it.
And this is where it pays to read up and know your candidates, people, because if you
Yeah, but
didn't know who
they
you was
make it
voting
hard
for,
for us to do that, though, Aaron. I voted by mail, and they didn't tell us who the candidates were. They basically just you vote. You have to do the research to find out who the candidates are. Not that that's a big question. That's not a big ask. To find out who the candidates are in your neighborhood. This was a tough year to do that because there weren't that many signs up.
well, with a short campaign, 36 days, the shortest it can be, I'm not all that surprised.
Before we get off this election kick, Ontario election soon?
We shall see. The way that things are looking now, I mean, he is coming up for election next year, so we'll have to see how that builds. He's apparently already in campaign mode.
So, by my calculation, if he's not really going to surprise anybody, because if he's down to it's not like the federal election. The federal election was a snap election.
Yeah.
This one here will be a snip election. They'll just snip a little time off the. No, I think he'll go the full. I think he'll go the full because I really think Ford does not. I don't think he wants to be that guy that calls an election early, considering his position and his judgment has been questioned, especially with the pandemic. I think for a lot of unfair reasons, but some fair reasons as well.
Well, he's got until June 2nd. So as of December 2016, the Ontario Elections Act dictates that elections have to be held on the first Thursday of June in the fourth calendar year following the previous general election. So he's got up until the beginning of June.
Refused a bus ride. Windsor mom forced to pay hundreds to get her first grader to school. And this has to do with his age. He's too old, but has a younger sister, right? That is on the bus.
That is part of it. In addition, he was being refused a ride, but his sister, for some reason, was.
Because she's younger. She's younger.
Well, the problem that we have is his mother injured herself in a car accident, and she can't always walk the 1.5 kilometers or 1.1 kilometers to the school. She's also on fixed income through ODSP. So she's paying $20 a day to rent a cab to take her son to and from school. And, that's $100 a week or $400 a month. And on something like ODSP, the Ontario Disability Support Program, that's a razor thin line. You're choosing between 3 or 4 meals and your child's education, which is never a situation you should ever have to be in.
I remember I had 4 children, different ages. And you had to be a certain age in Mississauga to get a bus ride. But if you had a sibling, an older sibling, that older sibling was allowed to go with the younger sibling.
So they were essentially accompanying minors.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's sort of, I guess it's kind of family unification, I guess is the way I'd put it. And how expensive are school buses? How flexible? Remember what we said just a few minutes ago? This fits into the same subject that we talked about. The responsibility, again, this isn't about socialism. This is about creating a level playing field. This woman, under these conditions, and you didn't come right out and say it, but you were alluding to it, that to ask her to pay for a cab to go, considering the situation that she finds herself in, and in fact, the situation her children find themselves in, there should be some sort of, I don't know, mitigation of or assistance on the school's part to say, look, let's help this woman out. And if anybody says anything, we say, well, if you're in a car accident and you're on ODSP and you can't afford to send your kid in a cab, you can have your kid go in the bus too.
I'm just saying, maybe.
No, you know what I mean.
The
I
other
know.
issue that we're running into as well is because of the pandemic, there is actually a shortage of school bus drivers.
Right.
So that's an additional strain on the system. Now, I know, according to Greater Essex County District School Board Chair Alicia Higginson, a courtesy ride doesn't always get guaranteed. Um, there is enough room on the bus for the kids to socially distance with or without masks if they need to. Um,
But
so
this
I'm
would be
not sure
two
why.
children who would sit together, so it would split the social distancing, right, Aaron? Instead of being 6 feet, 6 feet, six. I'm just math here, and I'm not real good
Yeah.
at it, so I could screw this up, but we'll give it a shot. 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. In this case, it would be 6 feet. That's it, because they would be in the middle together, right? So,
Well,
so that's. I'm
hmm,
just saying. I mean, what we're doing here is we're trying to be an example as to what we think should be the case. I'm putting words in your mouth, and I apologize. But somebody should
it's
have
okay.
this conversation. Somebody should be having that conversation. Say, now, hang on a second. If we're worried about social distancing, they're going to be sitting together because they're a family of one, right? So yeah. So the whole point is this: something will happen here. And I have faith in society. You know what's going to turn up, Aaron? Somebody's going to say, "Hey, we'll pick up your child and take him to school for you." There
Oh,
will
it's
be
already
somebody who
happened, by
does
the
it.
way.
Ah,
Um,
see?
there is a bright side to this. CBC News reached out to the Student Transportation Services in the Greater Essex District School Board and said, "So," and the general manager said, "Yeah, we'll approve him for a courtesy ride."
Okay, see? I I
As
just,
soon
you
as
know,
you involve a
I
news
have,
outlet, public pressure like this shouldn't inspire you to make change. Human
but it's
decency
good
should
that
inspire
it
you to make
does though,
change.
Aaron. It
Yeah.
reminds us. It's like when a tragedy happens and all of a sudden there's this person who nameless person who offers money to a family who's going through some sort of horrible hardship, whether it be a death or whether it be something else, a fire to the house. We're always seeing there are great people that come in who aren't looking for the glory just to help. That they do it without asking to be, you know, shown to be that good. They're happy just to do it. And doing good is something that should make us feel. I mean, just we live in a world today where we're as a society, there are too many corners, too many silos, and too many self-centered people who just don't get it. Don't get what I think. I'm not perfect either. I'm sure there's an improvement I could make. But this woman in Windsor, I'm glad that they did something to help her out. And more importantly, these are children and they're victims of a situation that isn't their fault. And by extension, or I should say, isn't their mother's fault. By extension, it's not the children's fault either. So I guess that's the theme I'm drawing from our show today is that, compassion isn't a bad thing, you know.
In the words of Jerry Springer, be good to yourselves and each other.
There you go. Coming from him, I don't believe it. Massachusetts man faked own death over COVID relief scam, and now he's been sentenced.
Yeah. So this is one of those really sort of situations. Um, this individual tried to scam a COVID-19 business aid scheme and faked his own death to evade authorities. So he's now been sentenced to.
Unsuccessfully, I might add.
Yes, he falsely claimed to co-own 4 large businesses in need of $500,000 in support from a federal government program. After being charged last year, this gentleman, David Stavely, staged a suicide and fled using false identities and stolen license plates. So, yeah, he was attempting to defraud the U.S. Paycheck Protection Program, which allowed small businesses hit hard by the pandemic to apply for low-interest private loans to cover payroll and other costs. So Stavely, 54, and his accomplice, David Andrew Budsiger, filed false applications as the owner of 3 restaurants and an unincorporated business named Doc Wireless, all with large monthly payrolls. In fact, all 3 restaurants had already closed, and Doc Wireless had no employees. So
That's too much. That's all I'm going to say. That's just too much. Let's move over to entertainment. And Woody Harrelson, he punched a drunk man. So this is who took his picture. So this is a Woody Harrelson punched a drug man. I see the humor in that. I don't know if you do, but I see the humor in that, and it's not funny.
Well, it was he was at a rooftop bar at the Watergate Hotel.
Oh,
And
what could go wrong at the Watergate Hotel?
I don't know, but it looks like there's a break-in. But he was with his daughter, and it was after 11 p.m. and the guy started taking pictures of Harrelson and his daughter. Woody asked the gentleman to delete the pictures, at which point a dispute ensued, and the man in question lunged at Harrelson, who then popped him. There were a lot of people there who backed up Harrelson's version of the story, and he's currently not under investigation. However, they are looking at charges for the drunk guy who took the pictures. So,
my goodness.
well, I think it's interesting because he was actually in Washington, D.C. shooting the HBO series The White House Plumbers, which is about Watergate.
Right. Well, he was on location.
Exactly.
And somebody, let's just say, went off script.
I'm of the opinion that unless it's an official meet and greet, I'm not going to bother a celebrity. If you're out and about and you're having a drink at a bar, I may nod at you or acknowledge you, but I'm not going to try to take pictures, and I'm not going to pester you for an autograph. Fan Expo is one thing.
I'm not going to totally defend Woody Harrelson because I don't really know what happened. But I understand what you're saying. The guy might have insisted on getting his picture taken and became aggressive, which witnesses obviously corroborated as far as Harrelson's concerned. So it sounds like this was someone who did not wish to take no for an answer.
Indeed.
Right. And so if you don't take no for an answer, sometimes yes isn't what you're looking for. Canadian Natural Resources to make vaccinations mandatory for all workers starting December 1st.
So this is basically the start of federally mandated vaccines and vaccination programs. Now, the decision was guided by public health. So, they're saying starting December 1st, there are exemptions for religious or medical reasons. However, CNRL did not state what would happen with employees without exemptions who didn't get vaccinated, just that you had to be vaccinated. So,
well, what do you think of forced vaccinations?
Well, these aren't forced. They're asking you to make a choice. And that choice is either continue to work with the government or seek other employment.
Yeah, there's a health organization in the U.S. that's doing that, and they're retaining 98% of their employees. 2% are quitting. But this company has said and is standing behind, we will accept an interview for you to come back if you decide to take the vaccine. And there will be an interview and you will, with the opportunity to come back. So the biggest thing, Aaron, that I understand about people, it's about putting something in your system which you don't know what it is. But the real underlying story here, Aaron, and it's with everything, it's trust, right? Isn't that what it always comes down to? It comes down to trust. Do you trust the vaccine? Do you trust the people who are providing you the vaccine? How important is it that we do, and when I say we, I mean society, what doesn't matter where, whether it's in America and Canada, where we do a better job of helping people to understand what we're doing is the right thing? Have we tried everything, do you think, or is there more that we can try?
I think the problem is far too often people find themselves falling down rabbit holes of misinformation and disinformation. And the problem is you end up with a polarization. You have, for example, a social studies researcher, this is an interesting little side thing, said, I want to see how long it's going to take if I make a TikTok account to get radicalized. So she went on to TikTok and she started looking at transphobic materials. And after about 2.5 hours, she got her first outright up and up white power video. So you could download TikTok for breakfast and before lunch be eating Nazi propaganda. That's how quickly somebody can get radicalized. And this loop that people find themselves in of misinformation and disinformation is only fortified by algorithms that are inherent in places like Facebook and YouTube and TikTok and Twitter. They'll only feed you what it thinks you want, and it's very hard to break out of that cycle. Same thing happens in real life. People start watching Fox News, people start watching CNN, MSNBC, OAN, The Rebel, Beltway Pundit, all that sort of stuff, and it's very hard to break the mold once you get settled into something like
that. Did you know that OAN was subsidized by Warner Brothers, which happens to be the company that owns the CNN?
Interesting.
$10 million startup money they gave them. Warner Brothers was looking for another property, and they still are connected to it. And I saw the report on CNN. Can you imagine being CNN going, wait a second? I guess the point I'm going to make right now is that
was it Warner or AT&T?
AT&T. My apologies. You're right. AT&T. Yeah, AT&T. You're right. AT&T. But AT&T is part of Warner Brothers, no?
That is a good question. They're also interconnected and inbred at this point.
It doesn't matter. But the point is, the same company that runs CNN, that I guarantee you. Do you want me to tell you who it is? I'll step back and go, okay, I'm wrong, because this isn't something we're planning on talking about. So I apologize if I'm not being totally accurate, and I don't mind being corrected. The point I was going to make is, unfortunately, what happens with people is anger is a terrible motivator. If you're angry, and I've seen this from people, and it's discouraging, this human nature thing where if you're angry, sometimes you're looking for reasons to be angry. A. B. If you have an enemy, you're looking for reasons for people to support the reason you don't like people. And worst of all, your mind plays tricks on you because you're motivated to agree with whatever you hear if it fits and supports your group of people and puts down the people you don't like. So this business of alienating people, creating separate groups and these silos that everybody talks about, we're living in a free society that unfortunately is free of truth, and that's the real underlying problem, is that there's a lack of accountability in our society. Maybe, I don't know if it's a fear and this is the worst thing that I'll say about this. Aaron, we know that dishonesty is flourishing right now, and people accept falsehoods as reality. And I worry. This is my worry, in all honesty. My biggest worry is whether it's left, right, center, doesn't matter which. The power to get away with lying isn't something that just resides in one community. It may reside less, but it does reside in all communities. And because of that, do we lack the wherewithal or perseverance and intentional hard work to eliminate all lies, even though all of us at different levels survive and or proliferate under those lies? Am I kind of making my point? Where unfortunately, unfortunately, lies are profitable, and some people don't want to give up their lies, because why should I give up? This is my other point. Why should I give up my lies if you don't give up yours? And it becomes a game of chicken to see who, So the truth, there's no reward for being truthful. The only reward that's possible for truthfulness is accountability for when you're not. And we lack, for whatever reason, the ability to get at people who are being untruthful. Whether it's on Facebook, whether it's in a newspaper, whether it's on a street corner or at the water cooler, right? It's all about accountability. And we've lost, or we don't know how to make people accountable for their dishonesty, especially because at what point do we cut off dishonesty, Aaron? That's the other issue.
Yeah, how many lies is too many?
Right. And when do we draw the line?
Yeah.
Right. And that's really hard. And for people like myself, and I think you're one of those too, is I would like a world where honesty is more important. You know, listen, I'm the first person to admit that I love a good debate. Not big on arguments, but I love a good debate. It can end up being an argument. But I have this definition that I say to people all the time. I like to be right, not win the argument. I like to be right. And sometimes in the middle of an argument, I realize I'm wrong. And I wish I could do that 100% of the time. And I wish more people were able to do that, because Aaron, it'd be a better world out there if we were able to accept the truth that maybe we don't really, want to believe. But if it is the truth, and no matter how you look at it, you turn it around and look at it upside down, and you go, gosh darn, it's the truth. If we could accept that, the world would be a better place. But we live in a world today where there's comfort in lying and believing in falsehoods. It's sad.
No, it is the warm comfort of the familiar, and if you've been led to believe a certain thing and you find something that counters that belief, you tend to flee back to the comfortable.
So if a company like Go Trains and UP Express won't require proof of COVID-19 vaccine, where does that leave you?
Well, that's a bit of a jump.
You see what I mean?
Masking and social distancing, Frank.
This surprises me, because this is an Ontario government company. UP Express isn't, but So
the problem that you run into here, Frank, is that it's too much foot traffic to try to verify everybody getting on and getting off.
Right.
Now, once the COVID app is finally out, you can just boop. You can do it at the same time as you tap your Presto card. It'll be easy, doot doot, and away you go. But for the time being,
so the app says you're okay, and then the Go Pass works. The app says you're not okay.
That would be an interesting twist on it.
Oh, I thought that's what I was hearing. What I mean, right?
As a way to verify whether or not somebody has had 2 shots. It's too cumbersome now to have somebody pull up the PDF on their phone and hold it up to you to try to get you to see it, and then verify that against your driver's license. But once it's a QR code on your phone, and that QR code can be scanned.
And if it's part of your how you put more money on your Go Pass.
Yeah.
You could put the fact that you have the 2 vaccines on the Go Pass too.
Yeah, you can link that. And you know what? Even for the government of Canada, just add a little bit of information to the barcode.
Right?
Your passport. There you go.
So I just think I pissed off most of the people who take Go Train.
They'll live. They take
At least the ones that aren't vaccinated. I wasn't going to the football game anyway. Is what you'll hear. Ontario sees 573 new COVID-19 cases as province lifts capacity limits at select settings.
So the good news is the Maple Leafs and the Raptors are now able to go back to 100% capacity. Our 7-day
that's new.
Our 7-day trend has been slowly declining. It's now down to 551, which is its lowest point since mid-August, while the number of actual active cases has dropped to 4,517. So that's 5 consecutive days of decreases. So that is a good thing. However, and I want to mention this again, and I say it every time, this is a race. And you don't pull up at the end of a race. You run all the way through the finish line. We haven't hit the finish line yet. Exactly.
Run through the tape.
Yep. You play until the final buzzer. The final buzzer hasn't gone yet.
But we're anticipating it.
Yeah, don't.
The countdown. The countdown. It's happening. We're getting down. We're going back to normal. Whatever normal is. Okay, I'm adding this story because this is one that, I'm figuring about once a year at least, we have a pipeline spill. We had one in California. Very nasty looking situation. 100,000 gallons, I think, of oil or more before they could shut it down. It has done a lot of damage to the beach. And people out there might say, and I got a lot of friends from out west who want the Canadian pipeline. You know, the truth is these pipelines do malfunction. And the problem is when they malfunction, Aaron, it takes a few seconds, a few minutes, a short hour or two to do a lot of damage. But Aaron, it takes a lot of time to undo that damage.
Yeah, and the problem that we've got here is that U.S. Coast Guard divers did actually find what they believe to be the source of the leak, and they've determined that about 1.2 kilometers of this pipeline was laterally displaced.
Oh my gosh!
By about 100 feet. So the thinking is that a ship's anchor hooked the pipeline and caused the spill. So
dragged along it.
That is 100,000 gallons, or almost 550,000 liters of water, of oil into the water right there, all because of a dragged anchor.
I just added that on because we had a little time left over, and it was just something I remembered, so I just typed it in here to remind me what I wanted to talk about because my memory sucks. All about old age. So, pipelines are not 100% safe. Just as, vehicles aren't safe, trains aren't safe. The problem is with pipelines, it's like trying to drink with a fire hose. It's just too much.
Once it cracks open, it's very difficult to stop.
It's massive. The problem is massive. If a train derails, yes, there probably would be some oil that spills, but it probably wouldn't be all the train cars, but it would be a few. But how many gallons are we talking about? I mean, we don't want the environment to suffer at all, right? If you're an environmentalist, you don't want it to suffer at all. So what it comes down to is the decision comparing economy with the environment, and how do you strike that balance, Aaron? And that's the big problem. Our friends in the West who want a pipeline, I understand their need for it, and if only there was a way to, monetize or define the risk compared to the reward, because we make those decisions every day, Aaron. We make that decision every day we get in the car.
Yep. And
so I don't know how you decide.
It's a tough call all the way around.
That was mine. You got 2 minutes to kill. What are we going to do with your 2 minutes?
Well, I'm just thinking about those 18 ex-NBA players that got $4 million worth of health care out of the system.
Yikes.
Yeah. Now these 18 players all earned about $340 million over the course of their careers. So how they felt it necessary, or why they felt it necessary to defraud the healthcare system is beyond me. In one instance, one of the players was actually playing basketball in Taiwan when he was supposedly getting $48,000 worth of root canals and crowns on 8 teeth in Beverly Hills, California in December 2018.
I assume it weren't his teeth.
Or somebody dummied up records for him. But we're talking about a period from 2017 to 2020 when the plan was funded primarily by the NBA teams, received false claims for about $3.9 million US. Of that, about $2.5 million US was paid out fraudulently. And we're talking everybody here from Terrence Williams, who was a first rounder back in 2009, to
ex-Raptor. If I remember the story correctly, there was an ex-Raptor in there too.
I believe so. There was also Tony Allen was indicted in there. He won an NBA championship with the Boston Celtics. There are a few others, but this is just something that's far and wide. It's much wider spread than you thought. Jamario Moon was the former Raptor, by the way, that was one of those that was involved in the scam, and he's the ex-Raptor.
It's a societal thing. It's, we have, again, dishonesty, theft, temptation. This is what being human is. And not that I'm making excuses for these people, but all I'm saying is that unfortunately, we can fail as human beings. We'll see what happens to them. I remember that word we used earlier, accountability.
Well, and as you get closer and closer to the final buzzer, it's all really about how you comport yourself. And obviously these individuals did not.
It sure is. Well, Aaron, thanks for being on the show again as usual.
Thank you, Frank.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live, airing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to glue my teeth in after this. Ciao for now.